The fluorescent lights of the mess hall at Langley Air Force Base hummed with a low, steady buzz, blending with the clatter of silverware and the murmur of tired voices. It was 5:30 a.m., and Martha sat behind the serving counter, her hands moving in a rhythmic motion as she scooped scrambled eggs onto trays. To the young pilots of the First Fighter Wing, Martha was just part of the furniture. She was a quiet, grandmotherly woman with gray hair tied in a tight bun who made sure the coffee was hot and the tables were clean. She walked with slight limp, wore a stained apron, and rarely spoke above a whisper. Most of the pilots didn't even know her last name. They just called her Ma'am or Martha, and moved on, their minds focused on Mach speeds and G-forces. Before we begin, tell us in the comments where in the world you're watching. The atmosphere on the base had been tense for 3 days. A massive hurricane was churning off the coast, grounding most commercial traffic. But the Air Force had a different problem. A classified, unmanned stealth drone from a testing facility had malfunctioned during the storm. It had gone rogue. Its navigation systems fried by lightning and was now drifting blindly into civilian air corridors. The F-22 Raptors, the most advanced fighter jets in the world, were tasked with finding it and bringing it down before it crashed into a populated area. But the storm was making the radar systems erratic, creating ghost targets everywhere. The pilots were exhausted, frustrated, and flying on pure adrenaline. At 6:15 a.m., the alarm klaxon shattered the morning calm. It wasn't a drill. The rogue drone had changed course and was heading straight for the capital. Major Jackson, called sign Viper, slammed his coffee cup down on Martha's counter, spilling brown liquid over the clean surface. He didn't apologize. He was 28, brilliant, and arrogant, the squadron leader who believed he was invincible. He grabbed his helmet and ran toward the hangar, his wingmen following close behind. Martha watched them go, her eyes narrowing slightly. She grabbed a rag and wiped up the spill, her movements slow and deliberate. But her gaze lingered on the red warning lights flashing outside the window. The storm outside was a beast. Rain lashed against the hangars as Viper and his wingman, Lieutenant Tex, blasted off the runway, their afterburners glowing orange against the gray clouds. Within minutes, they were at 30,000 feet, fighting turbulence that shook their $60 million jets like toys. Inside the cockpit, Viper struggled to read his displays. The storm's electrical charge was messing with the AESA radar, painting the sky with static. "Control, this is Viper," he shouted over the radio. "I have 0 visibility. The radar is giving me 100 false positives. I can't see the target." Back in the command center, the situation was chaotic. General Vance, a stern man with a cigar habit he couldn't kick, paced behind the radar operators. The screens were a mess of white noise. They knew the drone was out there, heavy with fuel and completely unresponsive, but they couldn't distinguish it from the storm clouds. If they didn't find it in 10 minutes, they would have to authorize a blind shoot-down over the ocean, risking hitting a civilian liner that might be diverting around the weather. "Find me that target." Vance roared, "I need a clean lock." Martha had finished her shift in the kitchen. Usually, she would take the bus home to her small apartment and feed her cat. But today, she felt a pull she hadn't felt in 30 years. She walked down the hallway, past the restricted signs, her cleaning bucket in hand. She knew the security codes not because she was told them, but because she observed. She swiped her cleaning badge, which gave her access to the trash bins in the command center. As she pushed the door open, no one looked at her. She was invisible, just a cleaning lady emptying the bins while the world fell apart. She moved quietly to the back of the room, emptying a wastebasket near the main tactical display. She listened to the radio chatter. Viper's voice was bordering on panic. "Control, I'm flying blind here. I'm getting magnetic interference. My compass is spinning. I need a vector." The young lieutenant manning the radar console was sweating. "Sir, I can't give you a vector. The ghost signals are mimicking the drone's signature. I can't tell which one is real." Martha stopped moving. She looked at the large screen. To the untrained eye, it was chaos. To the young operators, it was a wall of noise. But Martha didn't see noise. She saw patterns. She saw the way the static moved, the slight rhythmic pulse that didn't match the chaotic frequency of the lightning. She closed her eyes for a second, transported herself back to a bunker in the Cold War, where the technology was analog and you had to listen to the sky as much as watch it. "He's looking too high," Martha said softly. The young lieutenant ignored her. Viper climbed to Angel's 40. Try to look down on the storm. "No," Martha said, louder this time. She dropped the trash bag. It hit the floor with a rustle that seemed deafening in the tense room. "He is looking too high. The drone has a barometric failsafe. In a low-pressure storm, it thinks it is in space. It will dive to find air density. It is hugging the wave tops." General Vance spun around. "Who let the cleaning lady in here?" "Sergeant, get her out." Martha didn't flinch. She didn't look like a grandmother anymore. Her posture straightened. The limp disappeared. She walked straight up to the main console, pushing the stunned lieutenant aside. Her hands, usually seen holding a ladle, flew over the complex keyboard. She wasn't typing random keys. She was inputting a frequency filter algorithm that hadn't been used since the 90s. "What are you doing?" the general barked, reaching for his sidearm holster instinctively. "Step away from the console." "I'm saving your pilots, General," Martha said, her voice turning into steel. She grabbed the headset and pressed the transmit button. "Viper 1, this is ground control. Immediate turn. Heading 190. Drop to Angels 5. Hard deck is 2000. You're looking for a shadow, not a heat signature. The drone is cold, soaking the rain." In the cockpit, Viper was confused. The voice wasn't the nervous lieutenant. It was a woman's voice, calm, authoritative, and terrifyingly precise. It sounded like the voice of God. "Control, say again? Drop to Angels 5? That puts me right in the teeth of the storm. Who is this?" "This is not a negotiation, Viper," Martha snapped. "The drone is riding the pressure ridge. If you don't intercept in 3 minutes, it will impact the coastal bridge. Turn. Now." There was something in her tone, a command presence that couldn't be faked. Viper didn't argue. He slammed the stick to the right and dove. DF. 22 screamed down from the upper atmosphere, plunging into the dark, violent clouds. Rain hammered the canopy. The turbulence was so bad Viper's helmet slammed against the glass. He leveled out at 5,000 feet, skimming just above the churning black ocean. "I see nothing," Viper yelled. "Just rain and—" "Wait for the lightning." Martha's voice came back, smooth and steady. "Watch your 3 o'clock. Count to 4. Viper watched. 1, 2, 3, 4. A massive bolt of lightning split the sky. For a split second, the world was illuminated in blinding white light. And there it was, a dark, sleek shape, flying erratically just a mile off his right wing, invisible to radar but visible to the naked eye. "Tally-ho!" Viper shouted, his heart pounding. "Visual contact. It's the drone. It's heading for the bridge." "You are cleared hot," Martha ordered. "Take the shot." Fox 2. Viper locked on with his heat-seeking missile, hoping the friction of the drone's airframe was enough to guide it. He fired. The missile streaked through the rain, a trail of fire in the darkness. It impacted the drone, blowing it into 1,000 pieces that rained harmlessly into the ocean below. Target destroyed. Viper breathed, pulling up hard to avoid the debris. Splash 1. Good kill. The command center erupted in cheers. Men were high-fiving. The young lieutenant slumped in his chair with relief. But General Vance wasn't cheering. He was staring at Martha. She had taken off the headset and picked up her trash bag. She looked tired again, her shoulders slumped, the steel gone from her eyes. "Who are you?" General Vance asked, his voice barely a whisper. Martha paused the door. "Just the lady who served the eggs, General." She walked out, leaving a room full of stunned officers. 2 hours later, the storm had broken. The F-22s landed safely on the wet runway. Viper and Tex climbed out of their jets, adrenaline still shaking their hands. They didn't go to the debriefing room. They marched straight to the mess hall. They wanted to know who had been on the radio. They wanted to thank the mystery operator who had guided them through hell. They burst into the cafeteria. It was lunchtime now. The room was full of soldiers. Martha was behind the counter, serving chili. "Where is she?" Viper demanded, scanning the room. "Where's the tactical officer?" "The woman." General Vance walked in behind them. He looked at Viper, then pointed at the serving line. "She is right there, Major." Viper looked at Martha. He blinked. The lunch lady? You have got to be kidding me. She's civilian. She's ordinary." General Vance walked over to the counter. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a file he had pulled from the deepest, most classified archives of the Pentagon while the jets were flying home. He opened it on the counter. Inside was a black and white photo of a young woman in a flight suit standing in front of an F-4 Phantom. Her call sign was stenciled on the side of the jet. "She isn't ordinary, Major," Vance said, his voice ringing out across the silent mess hall. 30 years ago, before you were born, Martha was the first female air battle manager in the history of the program. Her call sign was Oracle. She didn't just read radar. She felt it. She guided 12 lost sorties home during a sandstorm in the Gulf when every other system failed. She retired because she felt she had used up all her luck. She wanted a quiet life. Viper stared at the photo, then at Martha. Martha looked down, wiping her hands on her apron, her face turning pink. "I just didn't want you boys to get wet," she mumbled. Viper stood straighter than he ever had in his life. The arrogance melted away. He realized that the woman who scooped his eggs had more combat time in her little finger than he had in his entire career. He snapped his heels together. The sound echoed in the quiet room. "Room 10 Hut." Viper barked. Every pilot, every crew chief, every officer in the mess hall stood up. The sound of hundreds of boots hitting the floor at once was like thunder. Viper raised his hand in a slow, crisp salute. "Thank you, Oracle," Viper said. Martha looked up, her eyes filled with tears. She slowly let go of the ladle. She straightened her back, the limp vanishing for just a moment, and she returned the salute. It wasn't the salute of a lunch lady. It was a sharp, perfect salute of a veteran. "At ease, boys," Martha smiled, her voice returning to its gentle whisper. "Now who wants chili?" From that day on, no one at Langley Air Force Base ever called her ordinary again. When Martha entered a room, the pilots didn't just see a cleaner. They saw a legend. And every morning at 5:30 a.m., when the coffee was brewing, the F-22 pilots would stop by, not just for caffeine, but to ask the Oracle what she thought of the weather. And she was never wrong.